The hype train for Watch Dogs was about 900 carriages long. I myself sat on this train, holding banners out the window, laughing, squealing and flashing my tits at other passing game releases that meant nothing to me compared to Watch Dogs. Once this train reached its destination, however, I wasn't impressed by my surroundings, though I remained positive and continued to delve deeper into this pixelated Chicago, hoping, praying it would get better. It didn't. Both E3 demos and early trailers of Watch Dogs set a very dark, violent, moody and grounded tone, and this had me very excited. The 2013 E3 demo especially. The fact that over the course of the demo some 3 rounds were fired by Pierce and 2 of them were used to subdue enemies rather than kill them really had me envisaging an incredibly authentic vigilante game, where your mind is a greater weapon than your gun. Though as launch neared, the frequency of explosions in trailers increased, as did the caliber of firearms Aiden wielded, and this had me worried. Unfortunately, my fears were not unwarranted. Watch Dogs betrayed this grounded tone in favour of a louder, more action-oriented experience that will have far greater appeal to the masses. But gamers that have been following this game for a very long time and were excited for the same reasons I was, may be disappointed with the direction they took the game in the end. This grounded tone, the weak story, which we'll get to in a minute, attempts to set, is conflicted in more ways than just the frequency of open combat scenarios. The movement overall carries almost no weight. This is true for both on-foot movement and in cars. The lighter weight on foot is quite strange, as the camera sits close to Aiden's shoulder and he is generally dressed in an overcoat, so a bit more feedback in the movement would have given Aiden a lot more a human feel. The handling model of the cars is also incredibly light and arcadey. Cars slide around with little encouragement and crashes carry little consequence or impact. The game also makes no attempt to deter you from doing things like just stealing a car when you need it or destroying the city around you to get what you want. This makes Aiden come across more like a GTA character than the morally conscious vigilante the story would have you believe. Activities around the city also betray the story's tone. Rather than the quiet hits on gang leaders or hacking jobs I would have expected, instead we are presented with street races and shutting down criminal convoys, which usually ends up with grenade spam and exchanges of assault rifle fire. So for those of you that can ignore the contradictory tone and the GTA-like approach to gameplay, may find a lot to love here. If there was anything that kept me playing this game, other than my obligation as a Let's Player, it was the enemy encounters. I love that enemies dressed only in hoodies could be dealt with 2 silent shots to the sternum, as I was able to fulfill my super agent spy fantasies of strutting through enemy compounds, silently planting 18mm of lead in anyone who looked my way. And when things get loud and messy, breaking an enemy's line of sight and moving will make him oblivious to your new position. This rewards flanking maneuvers and allowed the torment of enemies, much to my sick amusement. In the beginning, the prospect of a new encounter was one that would have me buzzing with excitement, ready to test new strategies. How does the hacking play into this? It actually plays quite an integral part of the stealth, as cameras can be used to mark enemies, activate machinery for distractions, and transformers can be blown to black out entire city blocks, allowing you to move under the cover of darkness. But unfortunately, this doesn't play out like say an Infamous game, where anything relative to your power can be utilised. There are only a select few models that are able to be hacked. This limits creativity, but of course, can be looked past. What certainly cannot be looked past is the game's horrible story. The really interesting aspects of the game world, like DedSec or Bloom, play a woefully minor part in the game's plot. And the characters that promise to be interesting, like Geordie, T-Bone and Clara, slip into the background shortly after being introduced, and are only interacted with on occasion. Aiden's relationship with his family is also pushed aside early in the game. All of these potentially awesome story building blocks ignored in favour of what? African-American gangland politics and a jarringly cliched villain. This could have been a fantastic story had they bothered to work on some character development and at least tried to attach us to them, to the backdrop of a corporate espionage meta-story involving Bloom and DedSec that is actually affected by the actions of Pierce. Instead, what we are given is a straightforward revenge/redemption story that doesn't try to mix things up or stray from what we'd expect. And if at some stage it did, I was too uninterested by that point to care. The city of Chicago is a diverse one, ranging from the dense urban jungle of the Mad Mile to the tired Bronx to the hilly woodlands of Pawnee in the north, all of it packed with small details and NPCs that have amazingly human interactions with their environment. People stopping to talk to each other, leaning on fences while having a cigarette, and rushing to the aid of fellow citizens after a car accident. There was also a lot of movement, as trees rustled in the wind and litter was blown across the streets. It really made the city feel alive, something that many open world games promise, but none have delivered quite like this. Now I'm going to have to address the elephant in the room. Yes, the graphics have had a significant downgrade from their E3 showing. Did I think it was going to be a problem? No. Was it? Yes. I played through this on the PS4, and of all the big AAA next-gen games I've played, Watch Dogs is by far the ugliest. Textures are muddy and flat, and objects like grass are of similar characteristics. Some rain and lighting effects aside, this could be compared to, say, The Last of Us on the PS3. Given Watch Dogs is an open world game, but the environments in The Last of Us were fairly expansive anyway, and is running on hardware that's said to be 10 times less powerful. It staggers me that Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed 4 could come from the same studio and publisher, but have such a significant difference in graphical fidelity. The approach to multiplayer is very Assassin's Creed-esque, with game modes that require players to act as NPCs in order to avoid detection by other players, though these modes aren't accessed via a matchmaking system as we're used to. In an almost Dark Souls-like twist, your game can be invaded by other players, who will attempt to remain hidden from you whilst they slowly download data from your character. This mode is incredibly intense on either side of the coin, almost always resulting in swearing, clenched butt cheeks, and broken hearts, as notoriety, a reputation type system used to unlock multiplayer perks, is on the line in all competitive online interactions. Ubisoft's gameplay demo of the Decryption game mode showcased an intelligent and coordinated tug-of-war between two teams of cooperative fixers, as they're called. But of course my time with it was with the public, on the World Wide Web, where the game mode had degenerated into team deathmatch, where people's weapon of choice were flying dump trucks. This is no fault of the developer, but be warned, it is not as advertised. There is also an online free roam mode with up to 8 players, but it kind of feels like a bare bones GTA Online, as it has none of its counterparts' features, bar personal ownership of guns and vehicles. Watch Dogs had the potential to define the next generation of console gaming, and that's certainly what was promised, but it falls significantly short of the mark, with awful story elements and a muddled and inconsistent tone that ends up falling somewhere between gritty, realistic crime story, what we wanted, and another loud and crazy GTA-style open-world game. But Watch Dogs remained my primary game well after the credits rolled, thanks to the absolutely awesome third-person combat. Had the presentation been up to scratch, I truly believe Watch Dogs could have earned its hype. A 6.9 out of 10. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, my review of Watch Dogs. Now, in the review, I made a lot of comparisons to Grand Theft Auto, and that's because they seem to have added in a lot of what I believe to be unnecessary features to help compete with Grand Theft Auto. So I have compared it to Grand Theft Auto so much because I believe the game is asking for it. So I've put the link to my Let's Play in the description if you want to go check that out. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends, all the usual. This is Ivesy, signing off.